Before we begin today's episode, a brief reminder. While I am Dr. Kate Rodriguez, a licensed mental health therapist with a PhD, I am not your therapist, at least not in this moment. The information shared in this podcast is for educational and illustrative purposes only and does not constitute a clinical relationship. If you are struggling, please seek support with a licensed professional. All right, welcome to the Overachieving Shit Show. I am your host, Dr. Kate Rodriguez, and today we have our very first guest. We're making history today. I have Dr. Diane Herrero present today. We'll talk about all kinds of stuff, everything from your burnout experiences to switching careers in your later in life.
Later.
We have presented together. We have talked a lot of shit to each other, and from the professional to the personal. I think the biggest thing is that we're always cheering each other on.
That's
and
right.
Using a lot of dark humor to get through it.
You have to get through it. It's a shit show for sure. I'm glad to be here, and I'm so proud of you, Chingona, for this. And thank you. I'm honored to be the first guest.
Well, thank you. I mean, who else can I fuck up around?
That's right. Someone that keeps you humble. That's me.
You bring me up and then make sure I stay down at the same time. I always appreciate that.
You're welcome.
We have survived a lot of crazy shit together.
Yeah.
We have both counseled through grief and many other things. But, to get it started, Diane, can you tell us what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Dr. Diane Herrero. I am a licensed professional counselor supervisor, and I'm currently working for 2.5 years. I've been at Driscoll Children's Hospital in the psychiatry department or clinic, doing therapy with the kids that are under the care of psychiatry.
And Chingona up there.
Yeah, I love it here. I love it. I mean, I've worked with adults, but the young kids, not the littles, but the teenagers, that's one of my favorite groups.
Yeah, it must be hard sometimes. I mean, you raised teenagers and then counseling them. Do you ever give them attitude back?
Yes. And as professors, because we're both adjunct professors at A&M, right, training future counselors, some of the stuff I'm like, this is not in the textbook. And so this is not what it looks like in real life, right? So yes, I give them a lot of attitude because they're dishing it out in here, and somebody has to keep them humble. No, it's to challenge them because it's tough to be a teenager, especially now. This world is a dumpster fire, right? We are living in a really hard time. But they come in here and they're just trauma dumping, or that's what the phrase they use. They're just oversharing. But sometimes it's attitude. And so if I match it, I think that's when I build rapport quicker, because they're like, oh, she's not going to put up with any bullshit.
Well, it's interesting because you were an accountant for how long? 20 years?
20 years. I started when I was 5.
You switched to this, and that experience of being an accountant, you wouldn't think an accountant and a counselor, how that goes together, but you couldn't let people get away with a lot of shit as an accountant either. And so do those setting boundaries and being able to be tough, is that what kind of helps you now?
Absolutely. So I was an accountant for 20 years, and I worked for CPA here in town and dealt with the IRS often. Right. And so tax law is the most complicated thing. And so we were constantly advocating and fighting for our clients. And so a lot of that is what I do as a therapist. But when I mentioned that I was an accountant for 20 years and then I became a therapist, everybody's like, those things don't match. Right. And so I think it's both. I'm able to use the experience that I learned, like advocating and making sure that stuff got done correctly in sessions with my clients, in terms of teaching, empowering them to really advocate for themselves. It's different. And I burned out there, and then I burned out here, and then I'm back here. Went back there, and then back to this field.
So when you burnt out with accounting, is that when you were like, fuck this, I'm going to switch careers?
Exactly. I was going through a lot in my personal life at the time. I was going through a divorce. My mom had been diagnosed. She had had Parkinson's for 20 plus years, and she had been diagnosed with cancer.
And you were her caregiver, right?
Yes. And well, my aunt helped tremendously too, her sister. But she was a single mom and I was an only child. We were very, very close. And so when all that happened and then I was going through a divorce, it was like, what am I doing? I was burned out with accounting because just dealing with the IRS, and then nobody wants to pay taxes, but it's part of living in this country, right? It was a lot of stress, unnecessary stress. I wanted to do something different. And I took my mom to a couple of therapy sessions because she was struggling with depression for a short period of time. And I was like, you know what? I want to help people. And so that's, kind of started looking into that. And then going through my stuff, I was like, am I going to go to therapy or am I going to become a therapist?
Any, mini, miny, mo.
No, but I wanted to help people. And so the route took me to here.
Well, that's really cool. And what do you tell people? Do you ever self-disclose with clients, like that you've gone through grief or you've been a caregiver? Because I know, like with counseling, so many times they tell us, like, do not self-disclose. But I know you and I are very different than most other therapists.
Absolutely. And I think we've talked a lot about this, right, between us. I think self-disclosure is very helpful within boundaries. You don't want to cause harm to your clients, but I think the populations that we've worked with, we have experienced a lot of the same, not that you need to, but some of the hardships and griefs and loss. And so I think self-disclosure is helpful when you use it appropriately. And I've always been able to build rapport with my clients, from little kids to adults, young adults, elderly people. And I think part of that is because when you use self-disclosure effectively, people just think you're a little bit more genuine. What they teach us in the textbooks, not always the best.
Yeah, a good frame. It's a good jumping off point. It's like how my dad always was with recipes. He's like, I mean, that looks good, but I'm also going to add whatever other magic I want to put in. And even that, bringing up my dad, when he was sick, we always laughed about how he treated you like a daughter sister.
I was thinking about that earlier today because, you and I have worked with underserved populations, right? Some of the most vulnerable populations that, because of the way things are in the world, in the US, they're more likely to go undiagnosed or not treated, not seek help, and even with like physical ailments. And I remember I was borrowing one of your offices, squatting in one of your offices, seeing a client, and your dad was there after I was done. And we were talking about, he had just started treatment. He was so angry and frustrated about how he was getting this specific treatment, right? That was, he said, and if I didn't have good insurance because of my wife, and he said, I could not afford this. The shots were, I don't know, 15,000, 100. I mean, it was a ridiculous amount of shot. And he was so mad about how people who are poor or people who, live a certain fixed income, he says they're not going to get the help that they need. And he goes,
yeah, the injustice of it all. Even though he was privileged enough, he was happy that he got it, but he was so pissed because how many other people have just had to give up and die because they didn't have the right resources or access to health care.
He was so torn by it. He's like, I'm grateful and, I'm very appreciative. And he recognized his privilege. He goes, but the world should not be like this. People should not die just because they don't have the same insurance, or they shouldn't not have access to health care because they don't have the insurance.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that up because we both have taught at A&M Corpus Christi. We've taught multicultural counseling. Every time, I don't know about you when you've taught it, but every time I get to the discussions about privilege, people get so defensive, especially the ones who are like, well, I'm not a minority. Since I'm white, they're saying I have privilege and I get whatever I want. And I'm like, no. To recognize it. And so I use different examples. Like I tell them, like, yes, I came from a Hispanic background, but I grew up very privileged, and I had a lot of privileges that my husband, who's a white male, did not have. And I recognize that, and I try to use it for good. And I think that that's kind of what it's about. If you do have the privileges, what you do with it and how you act on it.
I think it starts with that self-awareness, recognizing I did have some privileges others didn't. And I remember one semester when I taught it, one of my students, she was a white female, and she came afterwards and talked to me. She had so much guilt because of the privilege she had, and so we talked through it. But I mean, we're therapists, but we are their professors, so there's a boundary there. But she was, she had self-awareness, and what you do with that is what's important. You recognize it, and then what can you do to help others with it? But some people do get defensive. And I remember being in a sociology class when I taught as a freshman seminar instructor, and they were freshmen, so their brain's still developing. Of defensive, like, well, I didn't have privileges, or my parents worked, and I was like, no one is discounting that. It's just recognizing that there are privileges, and then there's the underprivileged. So
Yeah. So I never hate other people who have it unless they just refuse to acknowledge it. And I think that it's really important because so many people just
They
don't
don't
get
have that awareness, or maybe they don't want to. I don't know. It's tough.
And so you brought up the news cycle, and so we're sitting here in a city that's has a lot of underprivileged people. We have a lot of undocumented immigrants. We have a lot of people that don't have access to health care, and we literally work with them every day. And how do you not just want to burn the whole world down? And everything on the news is discounting their existence. Saying they're the problem that needs to be solved.
No, I do deal with those feelings come up, right? We do. Sometimes I'm just like, let's burn it all down. And it's that radical acceptance, right? I hate the saying it is what it is, but right now this is how it is, but not in a defeated, I gotta accept this. It's like, what can I do where I'm sitting and what privileges I have, what position I'm in, who I can talk to, how can I help this client? We both worked with undocumented minors, and that was the most rewarding, but also the most frustrating when they didn't have a sponsor and the hardships that they experienced, their stories. And then how do we get them the help care that they need, the services? It's very frustrating. There are days where I do feel very defeated and angry, but then I just have to keep going. I mean, since just over the last year, I've had 8, 9-year-olds in here afraid because their parents are undocumented and they're afraid ICE is going to go pick them up at school. And that's hard to hear. But I think as long as we keep doing this work and being there for our clients in any way that they need us and showing up and holding space for them, I think that helps tremendously.
So that also brings me to another thing. As the only daughters in a Hispanic family, we get a lot of pressure to take care of everything, right? As a Latina mother, you have to be the strong one. Like, so there's always like that, you're so strong, and the Latina resilient, they're so resilient, but it's like, do you ever get tired of being the strong person?
Absolutely. Strong one, or as my husband calls me, the voice of reason. He's like, Mom's the voice of reason. Mom says we can't go spend all this money. I'm like, somebody has to be the voice of reason. Why can't it be somebody else once in a while? But no, there is a lot.
Why can't you just let him have a good time?
Because somebody has to be the voice of reason. It's going to be the accountant. But being that strong Latina, I think it's also how the context, because when I see you doing things, I'm like, that I know that Chingona. I was there. I saw her in the dog program, the only one in the dog program that still managed to get sleep. I don't know how.
I will never forget the first time we were turning in papers and everybody was still in their clothes from the night before, like all tirada, and everyone looked all crazy. And I walked in like,
I slept 10 hours.
Y'all all looked at me like, why does it look like you slept? I was like, why didn't you sleep? Everybody stayed up all night. I can't do that.
You were so confused. You're like, what? I sleep 10 hours. I was like, I sleep 10 hours in a week, like 5 days. No, it was bad.
I'm one of those people. That's my one like non-negotiable. Yeah. Like, I will not sacrifice my sleep.
I'm envious, and I mean, I respect that because it's super important.
Like,
yeah. But I think
I can't function.
Yeah. I mean, and we all know, like, we're supposed to, your body needs rest. But I think with the strong Latina, I use it as, yes, we are resilient. We have overcome obstacles. Don't put me in a box. I'm going to keep, some days I'm strong and resilient. Other days I don't feel like being strong, or I can't. I don't have the emotional battery or anything like that. But I like to see it when we're inspiring other Latinas out there to do it, what we've done, like where we've come from and the work that we're doing, the obstacles and the trauma and the challenges that we've overcome. Because I've done some little speaking events for my niece who was in some organization at UT, and they were all over these college freshmen, and they were Latinas, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they were like, I think when it's like, oh, she looks like me, or, you know, I can, you know, it's what we say resonates for them, or it kind of hits home. I think we can use that phrase, that title, that badge of honor, whatever you want to call it, with pride.
Yeah, and teach them that there's things that you can do instead of, because I know it's hard. To live up to, you know, you have to be the strong Latina. You have to work harder than a lot of other people to get to the same place. And sometimes you just want to punch somebody.
We say that. Like, I think that would hurt. Avoidance is never the answer, but sometimes just no, it is. It could be.
Like, how do you deal with those kind of feelings? Like when you're just so angry,
Honestly, anger hasn't been my, like, I haven't struggled, you know. I think part for me is more just the worrying, the anxiety, and that's what caused me to burn out, right? So I worry more than I get angry about things. I
yeah.
get frustrated with things. I do have to limit my time on the news every day. Seriously, I can't. It's too much. Just when we
Hmm.
think like nothing's gonna surprise us, boom, the next day, right? We're So it is frustrating. What am I going to do with this energy? If it's anger, maybe pour it into something else. If it's anxiety, I'm trying my best to move my body. I always tell my clients, movement
Yeah.
is medicine. You got to do it. But sometimes I don't follow the advice of my clients. Hopefully, none of my clients are going to listen to this.
No, I'm sure your clients are
We don't need to hear.
like, I heard enough.
That's right. I listen in session.
I in session. I don't need to
I
listen to her.
listen and I don't judge.
I'm just kidding. No, but it is hard, and I know that we both use a lot of our dark humor as like a survival technique. And I think sometimes people can misinterpret our dark humor. I'll never forget one time I was texting you and you were like, "How have you been?" I was like, I don't fit in with all these moms that I'm around. I'm always like excluded from stuff. And you were like, bitch, they probably don't get you. Are you the only Latina? And I was like, yeah. And you were like, and do they understand your dark ass humor? I was like, they haven't even heard it. Like, I think you even said they might not have the ability to
Yeah,
read your
no, some
sarcasm
people
font.
don't. I think over the years I've gotten a lot better. But I think, yes, you're my one go-to when I need some dark humor in my life. I was like, she'll get it. Other people are like, oh, that was too dark. Oh, okay, sorry. I thought I was texting Kate.
I,
It helps. Yeah, it helps. I mean, I think
get it.
you have to keep things light. And humor has always been my go-to. Like I use humor like as a coping skill, as a defense mechanism. I it's
All
I
of
mean, what
it.
else can
All
you
of
do? Sometimes it's just making fun of things.
But yeah, like I feel that using the dark humor, especially with the absurdity of politics right now, when they're actually
Yeah.
affecting the people that we are
Yeah.
sitting in front of every single day, from LGBT to immigrants to underserved population, whatever it is, it's the dark humor is what gets me through it. And I've had clients, I tell them who I am. I think authenticity
Yes.
is probably both of our strengths. If you like me, you like me. If you
Right.
don't, you don't. I'll find you somebody
Right.
else if that's what you need. But it's what helps
Absolutely.
me keep the
Working with
blood pressure
teenagers is a
down
little bit
sometimes.
tougher. Some of my older teens, 17s, 18s, they're afraid to go out into this world. They're afraid of what it's going to look like. I mean, I have 16-year-olds worrying about, I'm not going to be able to survive and live in this economy. And so there's a lot of psychoeducation and trying to say, okay, 2 years from now, you'll be 18 years old and you'll have an opportunity to go to college, some of these things. But it's really some of the older kids that they use some of the humor, and I jump on that. I'm like, yes, this is what's going to get you through. But when I worked with adults,
I'm
man,
ready.
yeah, that was fun. Being able to be authentic and not worry
Yeah.
too much about saying things that were going to be offensive if you knew, because you build rapport with your client and you know exactly what you can share and not share. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. We were talking about code
No.
switching before we started recording and how we just kind of are ourselves and this is who I am, this is how I'm bringing it. I have clients who come in who have very strong cultural beliefs. So they'll be like, I've just been working and working and working, and I don't know, something's been wrong with me. I just feel disconnected, or they start
Yeah.
explaining disassociation or something, and they're like, so my grandma told me that she needed to use the egg on
Yeah.
me, or, that it's just susto. Your
Yes.
nervous system is crashing right. Like you can incorporate it, whatever your beliefs are. But do you ever find it hard to validate and bring in the
I mean, it's challenging,
cultural
but I think it's
parts of
fun.
it like
It's
that?
like, yes, it's your nervous system completely dysregulated. So we got to hit the brakes, calm your nervous system. And we can also say a prayer if you pray for your susto or for your susto, right? Whatever. I do have a lot of teenagers that their values and beliefs don't quite align with their parents in some of the Hispanic culture and things. I always feel it's like rewarding when they open up to me because they're like, I haven't shared this with anyone. My parents wouldn't accept this or these, or I don't quite believe in the same stuff. But we talk about some of these cultural traditions, beliefs. If they're not hurting you and they're helpful, then I'm all for using those as coping skills to get you through the hard times. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you combat burnout? Like, how do you, now that you said you have been completely burnt out a few different times,
I'm ready to retire.
You can't switch careers anymore, I don't think. Okay, well, that's different. What do you do to prevent yourself from
can I share how I
things
burned out a couple times maybe? So I was an accountant for 20 years, and I mentioned earlier, right, burning out. My mom was going through some stuff, and so I became a therapist. And then I was working with undocumented minors and then in the community health center, and I started to burn out. My aunt at that time was an elderly aunt, so I was taking care of her. She was the one that helped me take care of my mom, and so I was starting to burn out, and it was right at the beginning of COVID 2020. And so I started feeling the definition of burnout. We've talked about it in presentations and stuff, where it's the depersonalization, where you feel like you're separating yourself from the work, right? The emotional exhaustion. We're just emotionally exhausted, physically tired. What's interesting is that I usually feel very unmotivated. This dread, I don't want to have to go to work tomorrow. But for me, my burnout, other people noticed before. And so I would get a lot of the what's wrong? Because I'm not being loud, or I'm not being funny, or I'm not being talkative or whatever. Or my favorite, you look tired. I mean, thank you. Yeah, recently my husband asked me, yeah, are you okay?
Or
yeah,
are you okay?
My husband asked me what I wanted for Christmas, and I said I wanted this smart ring that I wear. My husband says, do you need a ring to tell you that you're stressed out and you're not sleeping enough? No, I love him. I said, yes, validation. And to tell me I'm not working out enough. Yes, I need that. And it's cheaper, right?
Like, I can do it for you.
We don't need these rings to tell us. We know. And so I knew after people started telling me, you look tired, and I wasn't wanting to go to work. So then I switched back into accounting. I became the CFO at the community health center. And then after a while, I was like, no, my heart belongs in the therapy room. Especially, I really wanted to work with young people. And so this opportunity came up here at Driscoll. And so here I am. But I think what has been helping me, and I was not this person in the doc program. Remember when we did stress management and they brought in someone else to do some yoga? I was like, okay, I did a move. I was like, next, let's go. Why are we doing it? I can't slow down.
You were not about
it. Let's go. During accounting, I'm like, let's go. Let's work 7 days a week. But I realized just when I started doing research on burnout, we started doing presentations, and I took a mindfulness-based stress reduction course, an 8-week course, and started practicing. I remember one of the daily exercises was a body scan. And so then it would come, it was a 2.5-hour class every Saturday or Sunday. And I was telling the professor that I felt like, I don't know why I keep falling asleep. Like, as soon as the thing starts, like, start with your feet, whatever it does. And he looked at me and he says, Diane, I wonder why you're choosing to fall asleep. And I was like, choosing? I'm not choosing to fall asleep. I'm tired. I'm falling asleep. What do you... And then I realized, I was like, do I have some choice? Do I have choice in this? I don't have choice in the politics. I mean, I can vote, but there's a lot of things outside of our control. But I do have a choice on how I take care of myself. And if I'm in here day after day teaching young people or anybody, any of my clients, how to regulate their nervous system, why am I not better at it? I wish I was better at it in the doc program, but I realized this is my opportunity to really focus on what I need to do to stay sane, to stay in this profession until I retire. Yes. Earlier, I think we were talking about, or maybe it was a text where you talked about someone calling you Mija or something like that. I was like, at my age, please call me Mija. So nice.
It feels so nice. They're like, Mija, can I see your ID? It
makes my whole day.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think it's just recognizing that how I take care of myself. So showing up. I had a couple of surgeries last year, and so I wasn't able to work out consistently. So this year, it wasn't new year, new me. It was new year, same me, but better. So, yeah. So what?
I like it. Yeah. Instead of starting from scratch or trying to do all the things, drink the water, the protein, do the this, do the that. It turns into a bigger to-do list that
self-care should be more than just the pedicures, all that. Yes, for some people it's great, it's a luxury, but I feel like taking control, like you said, how do you calm your nervous system? Like things that we have already with us. Like even some of my clients, when they're talking about coping skills, it's like, I love to listen to music or journal. I'm like, great coping skills, but what if you don't have any access to any of that? What can you do? You can ground yourself, you can meditate, you can slow down your breathing. Things that I've been doing for myself, and just kind of trying to, even in between sessions, I'll just for 2 minutes just slow my breathing down. Inhale the good shit, exhale the bullshit.
That's
They're little.
exactly
I'm
what
like,
I say
smell
too.
the flowers, blow out the candles.
With my little chinta over here, I have to do breathe,
There you
smell the
go.
pizza,
Yes, you
cool
gotta know
down
your
the
audience.
pizza. And when he's having a meltdown, he's like, I don't
Same.
care that there's pizza.
Same. When
I
you
don't
get to
wanna
that point,
smell
it's
it."
just sometimes a good cry.
Yeah. No, and so would you say that you've let go of any of your perfectionism? Because I do know that how we were saying about how you would stay up all night. You would stay up all night and write these perfectly concise papers. Your papers were always so much shorter than all of ours, but yet you made better grades because you've always cut out all the bullshit. But I know how you're such a perfectionist and a procrastinator
Good
together, so
combination.
that's why you lose
I know.
the sleep. So, and so which is funny because you're the one who even reminds me that things don't have to be perfect, even with my coffee mug here that says "not the worst mom" that you gave me as soon as I became a
Not
mom.
the worst.
You were like,
Never
"Don't worry,
the
you're not
worst.
the worst."
You're not the worst.
This one and
all
the
accurate, all
comachingas.
accurate
I was
depictions of your life. Yes. I know if I've let go of some of the perfectionism, right? But I still will. I'll tell people when I talk about us in the doc program, I'm like, we would be like, here's a writing prompt. She would start typing, and I was like, what is she doing? And she would have 8 pages, and I would do research and stuff. Yes. And I would, like, after
Who,
2
me?
hours, I would have 2 pages. But I said, she was just like, oh, it's just bullshit. I'm just putting my ideas on paper. And I always admired that. I wish I could be more like that, but it would not allow myself. I'm like, no, maybe because it was my procrastination. Once I finish my paper, I'm going to hit submit. I'm not going back and read it. So it better be done, right? But I think, yeah.
And I would like put everything out there and
Yeah.
edit.
That's how I would always, even the accounting firm, that's where you separate the men from the boys. Very sexist. In that field, it was male dominated back in the 90s. And I was always the one in the office. I can stay up, I can work over the weekend, I can work 7 days a week. But it was that procrastination that got me through those deadlines. And through the doc program, I think it would have been a smoother ride had I not procrastinated so much. But I know we had a lot more fun than we should have in the doc program. But I think it was our friendship.
Yeah, I see doctoral students now and they're so serious and I'm like, yeah, we didn't do anything serious. I mean, we were serious about the work, but I mean, I think we were the first and only ones that one of the professors said, y'all are bitches. And instead of being offended, we cried laughing.
I mean,
And then I started dressing up like her.
wrong. Serious. We love her. We love her. No, but you have to make it fun. You have to make it fun because it's when you're going through something together. Our joke would always say, how I would always tell you, I was one of the oldest after other people dropped the program. We were so different, and I would always joke about if I met you in real life, we wouldn't be friends, but we were assigned to this cohort where we were going from one class to another for 2.5 years or 2 years at least. And so it was one of those things where you build the friendship because you're going through this together. And if you can survive a doc program, what is it, like 1% of the population get PhD? What?
Yeah, and then make that Latinas with PhDs. I don't remember what that statistic was, but it's pretty small.
I don't know. I think it's been a lot of growth for me, but I'm trying not to procrastinate as much on things. But I mean, I'm like so behind on my progress notes. There's still stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Well, Diane, thank you for sharing your shit show behind the overachieving part. Now I'm going to give you some rapid fire questions. So you have to tell me which one you think, okay? There's no right or wrong. Okay. Are you going to pone la VIX or Lexapro? Which
Both,
one's going to
and
hold our
Vicks and
community
take your
together right now?
antidepressant. Porque it's hard.
What behavioral intervention is more effective? The chancla
Boundaries
or a
workshop.
boundaries
We should do
workshop?
one. We should do one soon. Yes.
Okay, Catholic guilt or imposter syndrome? Which one's
Imposter
louder
syndrome.
for most Latinas?
I think so.
I think so too. Okay, so is it susto
I
or
think
is
it's
it
generalized
general
anxiety
anxiety
disorder,
disorder?
topped with susto. Especially now. It's anxiety and what the fuck is going on.
Okay, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for self-care, a 15-minute nap or a 15-minute
Ooh.
rant about politics, which is
I
going to
don't take
help
naps,
you
but I would do the
more.
nap because ranting about politics in Texas with anybody right now, politics or religion. Yeah, no.
So being the strong Latina, is it a compliment or is it a trap
Take
to
it
make
as
us
a
work harder
compliment. I'm gonna take
for
it as a
less?
It's how we take it, and it depends who's coming from. Yeah.
Yes, well, thank you because I think that I wanted you as the first guest because my biggest thing is wanting to show the shit show
Yep.
behind so many overachievers, and I know that letting more Latinas know that you can do it. Sometimes it's going to be ugly, it's not going to be perfect, but you can still do it and make a big difference.
Thank
And
you,
so I
friend.
knew you were the perfect
Remember,
one.
inhale the good shit. That's it. That's it.
Exhale the
Thank you.
bullshit.
I'm so proud of you.
So what's one takeaway? What's
The
one
fact that
thing you're
I'm
not going to
probably
take too
30
serious
something
this
notes
week?
behind on my charts. I have a full schedule,
I'm
6 clients
exactly
a
the
day,
same.
5 days this week. So I'm just going to be present with them and my notes will get done. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Diane.